here's what happened. We're holding in Miketz, Perek Mem Beis, Pasuk Chof Aleph, and we are likely to not even read any further inside with this year because there's a major addition to the last year.
Okay.
That's what happens often when you find these big ideas, and they can keep on going. They do keep on going. So here's what happened in the last year, 2 weeks ago, based on Tehillim Pei Aleph, today's Shir Shel Yom, along with Micha Perek Gimel. Both helped us understand Miketz Perek Mem Beis Pasuk Chof Aleph, where the brothers said they're guilty for not listening to their brothers' pleas, and that's why Al Kain Ba'ai Le'nat Sarazais. It's two very notable things. Noteworthy things in this pasuk is that their guilt was the lack of empathy or paying attention to his cries, and additionally that they didn't expect the things to happen to them that are unexplained, and now they know why. Okay, so basically based on Micha Perek Gimel until Perek Pei Aleph, it says like this. The way it works is like this. Really, as it says in Tehillim Pei Aleph, if someone listens to the voice of Hashem, then Hashem will listen to them when they call to Him in their tzara. But only we learn from this pasuk. Only, okay, we're not going to go through all the rayas. Only if they listen to the voice of their fellow man. Such that, so basically it works like this. There's three things. There's those who listen to the voice of their fellow men are able to hear the voice of Hashem. They'll hear the word of Hashem, and then Hashem will hear them when they call in their distress. That's what it says. That's what happens with putting together Micha Gimel, Tehillim Pei Aleph, and it all starts from the beginning of Parashat Vayeshev, where Yosef's demand that he makes on his brothers is Shemuna. That's the demand he makes on his brothers. They have to listen to him. That means even if they disagree with him, and even if they think he's wrong, they still have to listen to him. If they would listen to him, that would make them able to hear the voice of Hashem, because to hear the voice of Hashem, you have to keep your ears open and not prejudge anything. And then if you listen to the voice of Hashem, Hashem will listen to you when you call to Him, because you're saying words that matter, that are important.
Listening to other people where you voice of Hashem.
Okay, so it's complicated, because in this pasuk it says that they have to listen to his brother. In Micha, where it says that they say Lo Savar Aleichem Ra'ah, the time is you don't hear the word of Hashem, Shemuna, and that all starts from and in Yosef's Shemuna to the brothers, which is the beginning of this argument that they should listen to Yosef, hear him as a person. That is echoed in Shemuna of Micha, which is the Navi speaking, saying you have to hear the Dvar Hashem. So therefore, it must be the two things go together. And therefore, until in Pei Aleph, where it talks about Lu Amishemei Ali, and there it talks about Hashem listening to them, Batzara. So that's why Akim Ba'alinu Atzara has two meanings. First of all, as Micha says, you guys think nothing evil is going to happen to you, but you don't have the Dvar Hashem, so there's no reason that you should think you understand Hashem's ways. And what it says in Tehillim is that even if a bad thing happens to you, you can call to Hashem and He'll answer to you, but not if you don't listen to the voice of Hashem, which is not if you don't live up to the Shemuna of Micha, which is the same Shemuna of Yosef, as we showed, and that's picked up over here. You have to listen to someone. You have to listen to a person.
So comes out that because they weren't Shemuna, they made the S10.
Correct, which is exactly what Micha says.
Opposite, which is the thing.
Right, exactly what Micha says. They didn't listen to Yosef because they said, hey, you're a dreamer. You're not a Navi. We want to be Nevi'im. But by not listening to him, they made themselves lose their Nevuah. And that's what Micha says, that the sun is going to set on the Nevi'im, which is one of the interpretations of Yosef's dream, that the sun and the moon and the stars are bowing, that means they're setting. So Yosef dreamt that there's going to be absolute darkness, and the dream fulfilled itself, because by the brothers not willing to hear him, they brought darkness upon themselves, on their ability to see, as Micha says. Right? If you can't listen, you won't see you won't hear the Dvar Hashem, you won't be able to know and understand what's happening. Okay,
The
that was
third
last
piece,
year.
The third piece is the one I'm struggling with, though, because if you're hearing the Dvar Hashem, right? If you're listening and you're hearing the Dvar Hashem,
Right.
you're not going to get yourself in this situation, right? That's the whole
Right.
point of having the Nevuah.
Right.
So what's the even if you are in a bad situation?
Oh, okay, because it's all right. Oh,
yeah,
you mean?
Hashem will answer you, meaning what? You'll understand that it's really a good situation.
I'm not sure. It's an interesting question.
Like,
Okay,
what's
right.
that third piece?
Right. What are the two steps? Okay, so where does tefillah come in?
I thought step 2 were good.
Yeah, I hear. Right, I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer to that. Meaning, there's 2 points. In Micha it says, let's say in Micha Perek Gimel, it says they think. Micha Perek Gimel pasuk Yud Aleph. They're doing all these evil things, and they rely on Hashem, saying, "La Hashem b'kirbeinu lo savar elenu ra'ah." Ra is not going to come. So what does that mean? That means, okay, if a person knows that he's perfect, tzaddik v'toivloi, and then say it, and no evil should happen, right? Tzaddik v'toivloi. He didn't do anything wrong. He knows what he deserves, and he doesn't deserve any evil, and everything good should happen. That's called tzaddik v'toivloi. And then there's another thing in Tehillim Pei Aleph, if something bad does happen, you call it Hashem and he answers. So why is anything bad happening in the first place?
Right.
Okay, fine, say that. That's maybe tzaddik v'ra'ah. Okay, we can't go into that. I mean, in other words, bad things do happen to good people. So.
Fair enough.
Right, and so there's 2 mahalachim in the word. There's one mahalach called tzaddik v'ra'ah, and a mahalach called tzaddik v'toivloi. Even the mahalach of tzaddik v'ra'ah is something called tefillah, where you could call it Hashem and he answers. So there's really 2 different things. Okay, why is it sometimes one, sometimes the other? That's Moshe Rabbeinu's question. When we ask tzaddik v'toivloi, tzaddik v'ra'ah, the question is how come sometimes it's one path, sometimes another path. But there really are 2 different paths. One path is with the
It's a
tzaddik.
catch-22.
No, it's not.
Because if you're listening and you hear, then yes, maybe something can happen, and yes, you can call out and get an answer. But
Right.
also, maybe you understand, you have a better understanding, just of it, and it's, you see it, you don't see it necessarily as bad. Or
Right.
whatever.
That'll be called a seven in a row.
Right,
Right,
because you're-
100%. That'll be included
So
in
it's
the
almost a
7 in a row.
catch-22 because
Well, it's not a catch-22.
If you're not listening, then you're in a bad situation. Then you call, no one's answering. Okay, now it's too late.
Yeah,
That's the catch-22.
you're too late, right, in a couple of ways, right, that's true.
That's
Okay, let's look at Yirmiyah Parakov Gimel. Okay, now here's very important. What's very important is Yirmiyah Parakov Gimel. Here we're going to see something another angle on everything that's happening over here. Yirmiyah Parakov Gimel is a very important parak for the whole Yosef story, because there, Yirmiyah Parakov Gimel, Yirmiyah says that Hashem fills the heavens and the earth. Unlike what it says in Keheles, that God is in the heavens and man is in the earth and man dreams. And Yirmiyah says this whole thing about don't listen to the dreamers. Don't listen to the dreamers.
We know it means yes.
Right. The dreamers. Because the dreamers are not the same things as prophets. It says Yirmiyah Perikov Gimel Pasuk Chav Ches. And there he says, in that very pasuk, important pasuk, he says, don't mix grain with straw. Malav Teven es habar. No'um Hashem. So the word of Hashem is like grain, and the dreams are like straw. And of course, Yosef is having dreams about grain, because in Mitzrayim he's going to find the grain. But going down to Mitzrayim is also going to bring us into Shibud, and that's typified by the straw, and then the Parashas Shmos. So Yosef is dreaming about grain, and grain symbolizes the Devar Hashem, but it's only a dream, it's not a Nevuah. So he's thereby diluting, the right word, of the grain and mixing it with straw. Okay? Because it's not quite a Devar Hashem. And, okay, now, look in Pasuk Tazayin. Koyam Hashem tzavakas al tishma'u al divrei hanavim hanibim lochem. Don't listen to the prophets. These are false prophets. Ma'bilim heima eschem. They're making you hevel. Chazoin libam yedaberu lo mipi Hashem. They speak a chazoin of their own heart, not from the word, not from the mouth of Hashem. Oimrim amar lemina'atzai. They say to those who are minayat Hashem. They say to those who reject Hashem, deny Hashem. This is Perikov Gimel Pasuk Yud Zayin. Diber Hashem shalom yelachem. They tell them in Na'atzim, Hashem says is going to be shalom for you. V'chol hoylech b'shuyus liba amru l'savei aleichem ra'ah. So they tell them in Na'atzai, everything's going to be fine, shalom. And the people who go b'shuyus libam, they say to them, or they say to them, or those people say, evil is not going to fall on you. Who really heard Hashem's secret? Only the one who was makshiv, the one who could listen, he's Shemeah. Okay, and then the next pasuk talks about a storm. Hine Cyrus Hashem, there's a storm of Hashem, which is an anger, and a Sar, again a storm that's going to land on the heads of the Rishon. The anger of Hashem is not going to return, Pasuk Chaf, until Hashem does what He plans to do, and eventually you're going to understand this. You have to keep going. Lo shalachti zanavim v'heim ratzu. These Nevi'im were not sent, and yet they're running. Lo dibarti aleim v'heim niba'u. V'hem oimdu b'soidi. If they really know my secrets, v'yashmiu d'varas ami. If they really know my secrets, then v'yeshivu b'darkum ra. Those who really know the secrets of Hashem know what is the secret of Hashem. What's the message? Everyone should stop doing ra. If they're not doing that, that means they don't have a Sod Hashem, and yet they're coming with the word of Hashem, and that's really, they're claiming to have the word of Hashem. It's really chazon libam. And what is the word of Hashem that they're claiming? Shalom to those who are menayetz Hashem, and loy savay aleichem ra to those who are heicham shuyus libam. Pasuk Yud Ches. It's saying that not everyone truly knows the secret of Hashem. Only some people are able to hear His word, and who is it that actually has heard His word? Meaning, it's not so common as you think. It's very special. Not everyone can get up and say that they know the word of Hashem. Okay? So let's see what's happening. So first of all, you have this pasuk about people who say, "Lo savei aleichem ra," no evil is going to happen, right? And this is all connected to Yosef. So let me just review why. Yosef told Paroi, "Elokim yana eshleim Paroi." Paroi is the menayetz Hashem, who said, "Mi Hashem," and "Lo yadati es Hashem." And connected this, we have in Mizmor Pei Aleph, "Misanei Hashem yichachashu loi." That's Paroi who's mechachesh and denies Hashem. He's Misanei Hashem. And okay, and here Yosef is giving shalom to Misanei Hashem. And here it's to people that are hoylech b'shvuyus liboy, the message is ra is not going to happen to you. That we have also in Mizmor Pei Aleph. Lu ami shomei li yusov dracha aleichu then kemat tevei machriya. But they don't listen. Shalcheu b'shvuyus libam yelchu moetzei. They do what they want. Okay,
But
fine.
the difference is that Yosef actually happens.
What happens?
Whatever he says is going to happen, that really happens.
No, he said there's going to be a 7-year hunger. There was only a
Yeah.
2-year hunger.
Okay, but that's not bad. That's the good part's always happening.
So let's see. So what's going on with Yosef? Yosef. This is what we're going to see tonight. It's amazing. Yosef. Yirmiyah is very unhappy with Yosef because Yosef is a dreamer, not a prophet. But L'maisa, Yosef's dreams sort of come true, right? That's what you're asking. I mean, okay, right? They sort of do, partially. Fine. And what's Yirmiyah's problem with Yosef? Don't tell those who are menayetz Hashem shalom. Okay. And then he uses this word of lo savei aleichem ra. Those who are heilich b'shuyus libam, but don't listen to the voice of Hashem. How could they think? How could they hear that evil is not going to happen to them? Okay, keep that in mind, and we'll put it all together. Next, he says also in Pasuk Yud Ches that not everyone's really shemeya. Right? He repeats vayishma in Pasuk Yud Ches. Not everyone's oimid b'sod Hashem and shemeya is dvar. Mi hikshiv dvar vayishma. Who is able to really pay attention and hear? That person you should listen to. But as it starts in Pasuk Dezayin, Al tishmu al divrei neviim. Don't listen to the people who are not able to hear. The people who are not able to hear shouldn't be listened to, obviously. So we have a similar thing like in our parasha, those who didn't hear the voice of the brother, they didn't hear the Kol Hashem, and therefore Hashem didn't listen to their Kol. Right? Okay, fine. And they said, evil won't happen to us, and they are not Shemei B'Kol Hashem, the Hadach B'Shuyus Libam. Okay, fine. That's just how it all ties together. But now this is something new. Going to Pasuk Yud Tes in Paragraph Gimel and Yirmiyah, it talks about a storm from Hashem that's going to land on the heads of the Rishon. So I want to suggest that this is referring to Yosef. Okay, why? Because we learned in the beginning of Parashas Miketz that the Kodim, the eastern wind, that figured in Paro's second dream. Because he said that the grain was Shdufa's Kodim. That eastern wind is interpreted to be none other than Yosef himself. Because in the first dream, basically, without going into it's all there in the Shurim, but basically in the first dream, there were Paris Yefais Toya Yefais Mar, which is a reference to then Piras Yosef, and he's Yefei Toya Yefei Mar, as the Medrash says. And the second dream, there's a Ruach Kodim, an eastern wind, and Yosef interprets the dream, and Pari says, "Oh, you are the Ish Asher Ruach Elokim Bai." So where does Yosef? Yosef, who was in the first dream, as the Paris, if where is he in the second dream? He's there because he is the Kodim. He says, "You know why you had a dream about the Kodim? Because I am the Ruach from Hashem, who's coming to interpret the dream." So the medium is the message. What the dream is that there's going to be an interpretation. That's me. Okay. Now we spoke about this a lot. The thing about a Kodim is that it's a Ruach Kasha, as the Nevi'im say. Kodim is a destructive wind. Okay? And it's a Ruach Kasha. Now, Yosef spoke to his brothers Kashais. He spoke to them Kashais. And Yeshaya Perek Tes, which we spoke about a lot, which is Mechuvim to this parasha, talks about the downfall of Mitzrayim, the eventual downfall of Mitzrayim. And then eventually, after their downfall, they're going to come around to recognize Hashem. And Yeshaya Perek Tes says that Hashem is going to make Mitzrayim fall through an Adonim Kosheh. Hashem is going to give over, hand over Mitzrayim into the hand of an Adonim Kosheh, an evil master. Okay? So Mitzrayim's downfall comes from the fact that their master, their king, is Kosheh, which is actually what happened to Mitzrayim, because Paro was Makshe, as Ruchai, and when he actually slave Paro, he was Kosheh. He was Kosheh, and because he was Kosheh, that's why Mitzrayim fell. And we showed further, without going into all the psukim again, it'll take us forever, showed further that where did Mitzrayim learn to be Kosheh? First of all, they learned from Yosef, who was Adonim Kosheh, their hero who saved them. He was an Adonim Kosheh, he was Davidim Koshes. And more than that, they were Kosheh because really being exposed to a hunger that would have decimated them, would have softened them and made them be humble. But Yosef told them, no, don't worry. Mitzrayim is so mighty that even when it faces a Rav, we could figure out a way through my Ruach Hashem, because it's Ruach Elokim Bai, I could speak in the name of Hashem, figure out a way to do something that's going to save Mitzrayim, even when Mitzrayim gets a Rav. But let's say Yosef wouldn't have saved, Yosef would not have stepped up to the rescue instead of Elokim Yana Shloim Pari, then everything would have happened different. Here's what would have happened. Mitzrayim would have had a Rav, would have made them know, Tachas, we have to do tshuva. That's it. Hashem got us. And we'll start again. As it says in Yeshaya Perek Yutes, one day there's going to be in Mitzrayim they can speak the language of Canaan. Now Yosef went to Mitzrayim and Sfas lo yadati eshma. And you remember Pari said to Yosef, Ani shamati yolecha leimor tishmar chaloim. We spoke about that pasuk. What's this? Shamati tishma. That Pari said, I heard you from my team. That you're Sfas lo yadati eshma. Mitzrayim is typified by the fact they don't speak Lashon HaKodesh. They don't speak the Dvar Hashem. And eventually Yeshaya says they will speak as Sfas Canaan. Now they speak mitzvahs. And Pari says, I know that I heard about you, that you're on my team because you're a dreamer. You're not a Navi person. And Yosef says, yeah, I'm with you. I'm back on your team. I'm going to support Shalem Pari. But had he said, no, it doesn't work, Mitzrayim doesn't work, Mitzrayim's going to fall, then Mitzrayim, they would have done tshuva, and Mitzrayim would have become like Eretz Yisrael, as we discussed in one of the shurim. And everything would have been different. So what looked like the rescue of Mitzrayim, the Isha Ruach Elokim Bai, was actually the downfall of Mitzrayim. And that's very appropriate because he's the Ruach Kodim. This Ruach Elokim was the Moshe of the Ruach Elokim was Ruach Kodim, which is the eastern wind, which is always destructive. Okay? Now going to that pasuk in Yirmiyah, Perek Chav Beis, that's what the Perek Chav Gimel. Hine Saras Hashem Chema Yotza. The storm of Hashem is this Chema, anger, and it's a Sar Mischoil, it's going to fall on the Rosh Hashanah. So I think this is Yosef. Yosef is this storm of Hashem. It says in Iyov Perek Chav Zayin Pasuk Chaf Aleph, it talks about the Kodim that's Soyer. So the Kodim is called a stormy wind. Okay? So he brings the anger of Hashem. Now look at it as close as you see. Very fascinating thing. Here it says in the next Pasuk, in Pasuk Chaf Aleph. So just no Pasuk Chaf. Pasuk Chaf says that there's an anger of Hashem, and eventually you're going to understand it, right? So there's some anger of Hashem, but eventually you're going to understand what it was out to accomplish. Now look at Pasuk Chaf Aleph. Lo shalachti es hanavim v'hem ranzu, right? Oh, I didn't send the Nevi'im, and yet they run. Okay? So here it's Lo shalachti es hanavim, Hashem didn't send them, and that they're coming, claiming to be sent by Hashem. What does it say in Tehillim Pei Aleph? Va ashalachehu b'shuyos libam. I sent them. So there it's talking about, it's a very interesting lesson, right? Hashalachehu b'shuyos libam. Hashem sent someone b'shuyos alev. Shuyos alev is that you're doing your own thing. That's the whole point. The problem of shuyos alev, right? And no, so the male, the pasuk on its own is gefährlich. But here we see, reading it all together, here, when we're talking about you're not a Navi, so as Yirmiyah says, Hashem didn't send you, Dafka didn't send you. And there it's saying, Vashalacheru b'shviyus libam, right? So the pshat is like this. And here's the amazing thing. Someone who's going b'shviyus libai, a Navi, who's speaking the word of Hashem, Chazon libam, v'lo mipi Hashem, so he's going b'shviyus libam. So on the one hand, that's called Lo Shalachti es Navi. On the other hand, that could also be called V'ashalacheyu b'shviyus libam. Why? Because he thinks he's speaking for Hashem. So he's picking up something. He's tuned in. Right? He's tuned into Ruach Hashem. But what kind of Ruach is he tuned into? A storm. That's the point. The point of the mashal of a storm is like this. Is that if this guy is trying to speak for Hashem, and Hashem didn't really send him, so he's going to come with a message because he stands for the Ruach. I mean, he stands for God. But he's coming with his corrupt, with Chazon Libo.
Lose the war.
What?
He wins the battle, loses the war. That's what happens.
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't know if it's that. It's that it'll be some. No, I don't know if it's a battle and war thing. I think it's that.
No. My point is, he might in the short term pile ice.
He's going to tap into something, right?
The wrong thing.
Exactly. He's tapping into something,
picture,
right?
It's no good.
He'll have a koyach. He'll tap into some truth, right?
He sees the micro, not the macro. He misses something.
Right.
There's
exactly. So he'll see something. He'll pick up something. Yeah, he'll pick up something because he's looking for the Dvar Hashem, but it's really Chazon Libam. So Memela,
Why would we definitely pick up something?
because he's trying to. He's trying to. So Lo Shalachti is similar to Hashachei B'shiyus Libam. He's trying to. Anyway, someone who's trying to. Let's look at it this way. Let me tell you, we mash on the mashal, and then tell me if you still need hezber. In Mizmar Kuf Mem Zayin, it's an amazing thing. Mizmar Kuf Mem Zayin, which is the Mizmar we keep on talking about, in the end, okay, it talks about Hashem sends His word to the earth. Hashalech imros haaretz and meheretz devarei, and then it switches to weather. So Hashem sends His word to the earth, and He sends the snow, like wool, right? Not everyone could stand in front of Hashem's cold, and then again it talks about the Dvar Hashem, and then the pasuk test. Obviously, talking about Magid Bar Liach, we're talking about Nevuah. So we're talking about Nevuah, we're talking about weather, and not everyone could withstand some of the extreme weather. Okay, what's going on here? Because in Yeshaya it says, "Kikasha yered ageshem Hashem shamayim keni di Dvar Hashem." Meaning, very important idea, that the phenomenon of the weather, you go outside and it's raining, go outside and it's snowing. That's a mushal for the fact that if you open up your ears to the universe, you'll hear the Dvar Hashem. You have to do it right. You have to know how to do it. Okay? But there's also nasty weather. Not everyone could go outside when it's cold. So that's back to Yirmiyah. He's saying like this. He's saying, remember it says miyamid, right? Back to Yirmiyah, it says mi amad b'sod Hashem. Not everyone could stand beside Hashem, because sometimes you go outside and it's a storm. It's not the, right? It's cold. Here it's hot. Whatever. It's a sar. It's a kodem is hot. It's a heat wave. The heat wave, I think, is the kodem. But it's also a sayre. It says in the So the same way that the weather of bounty, the rain, is a mashal for the Dvar Hashem that fructifies the earth and gives us bracha. So the bad weather is a mashal for the Dvar Hashem, because something coming from the heavens. But you're better off being indoors. You should have stayed inside. You shouldn't have tried to hear the Dvar Hashem. So those who tried to hear the Dvar Hashem will look for it, but are not really, they're really bringing Chazon Libam. So they're sent by Hashem in a certain sense, but they're sent, and that what the message they're going to bring is going to be destructive.
It's the same problem, right? You don't listen, and it makes you not hear. If you listen wrong, you hear the wrong thing.
Yeah. It's not a different problem.
So you're listening, you're putting your interpretation onto what you're hearing. Now you're making a mistake.
Right. Now the thing is, what we have to figure out. This is where things get a little more complicated. Yirmiyah is talking to Yosef, and Micha is talking to the brothers. Right? The Micha is talking to the brothers and saying, "You guys are not Nevi'im. Why do you think no evil is going to happen to you?" And Yirmiyah is talking to Yosef and saying, "You're not a lover. You're just a dreamer. Why are you saying no evil is going to happen to you?" Okay. So nobody comes out of this. Nobody comes. I'm scared. Right. The Nevi'im are critical of the brothers and Mohammed. There's another way. But again, so you see how it all comes together. The Saras Hashem is a chema. Not everyone could withstand it. So too in the mashal in the world, not everyone could withstand extreme weather. And if you go outside, when it's a storm, and you say, I'm going to take in the storm, so you're going to bring the storm back home, whatever, and you're going to bring the storm, you're going to channel the storm, you'll channel negative things to the world. So someone who tries to listen to the Hashem, but is not really beside Hashem, is not really able to listen, he's going to have a storm. So to Yosef, who comes to Parai and says, Shalom Yelechem, Hashem says, Shalom Yelechem, really, Yosef has no right to say that. Because while you're dreaming, you should do Nevuah. Okay? So what's he going to bring to Parai? He's going to bring the Dvar Hashem. A Ruach. He's Ishash Ruach he can buy. But the Ruach is going to end up being a storm. Because the worst thing that ever happened to Parai was that Yosef interpreted his dreams. That was the worst thing that ever happened to Parai.
That's crazy because that's even not. He wasn't even the dreamer in that scenario.
Who?
Yosef.
Right.
Yosef
But I was like, you want to join me.
But he switches from being a dreamer
Correct.
to now interpreting dreams, and he's still messing it. You know.
Yeah, that's not interesting. Why are dreamers dream interpreters? Right. What's the connection?
You're talking about Venvi'ai Shakir Dafka?
Yeah. What is? Yeah.
He's not coming in full.
Who? Yosef?
Yosef.
Right. No. Micha is talking about the brothers who want to be good Nevi'im, and he's saying you guys don't you lost your ability to do Nevuah. Right. And Yirmiyah is saying Yosef, you're not enough. You're a dreamer. So why are you mixing Tevin and Bar? Yirmiyah is taking the sides of the Achim. Micha is taking the sides of Yosef, essentially. Okay. Okay. Now look how amazing it is. So now let's go to Pasuk Chaf in that parak. In parak of Gimel and Yirmiyah, Pasuk Chaf, it says there's an anger of Hashem that has an agenda, has a plan, and remember the Navi talks about the people who speak Chazayin Libam and Harlich B'Shus Libai, and here in Pasuk Chaf it says Hashem has also Mezimos Libai. Hashem has what he's thinking, but you don't understand it. Now, what does it mean you don't understand it? Of course you don't understand. That's the whole point. Is that you're not hearing the Dvar Hashem. So the Dvar Hashem here in the Navi is a storm. You're sort of hearing the Dvar Hashem, but it ends up being destructive. So you end up saying, why did this happen? And you don't know the answer until eventually, meaning Hashem has his thoughts that he's thinking. You don't understand what Hashem is doing because you think you do, but it ends up being a big mess. But eventually you're going to put it all together and understand. Okay? Now, take a look. Remember this pasuk. Okay, now we're going to have to look at some other pasukim in Yirmiyah. Look first in Perek Chav Tes. Perek Chav Tes, pasuk Yud and Yud Aleph. It talks about after 70 years of Bavel, good things are going to happen. And the pasuk says that Hashem says, I know the machshavas that I'm thinking about you, which are machshavas shalom v'loy le'ra'ah v'loses lachem achas v'sikva. So there's something called machshavas Hashem. In other words, there's 70 years where there's no Dvar Hashem, 70 years where we're going to be in Galus, and that's called that Hashem is thinking but not speaking to you. But even Hashem's thought, that means even when Hashem's actions are not explicable, and the Nevi'im can't say, hey, Hashem's doing this, Hashem's doing that, that's called Hashem's not speaking, but he's still thinking, and it's going to eventually be an achris v'tekva. So this corresponds to what Yosef told the brothers, Elokim chashava l'toiva. That means it was we were operating in a world of Hester, where you didn't have the Dvar Hashem, I didn't have the Dvar Hashem, I was doing dreams, your Nevuah got lost. That's all purposeful, because eventually it's going to turn out into something good, even though we couldn't understand it at the time. Okay. Next. Now take a look at Perek Lamed. The end of Perek Lamed. We'll start from Pasuk Chaf Aleph. Perek Lamed Pasuk Chaf Aleph. It says Hashem is going to bring someone close, and he's going to approach Hashem. No one is able to have enough courage to approach Hashem. Rather, Hashem is going to select someone and bring him close to Hashem. We recognize that pasuk. What are you going to understand by Achasayamim? After, what's going to happen from the Af Hashem that's going to play itself out? It's going to lead to a point in time where Hashem is going to be the God for all the Mishpachos Yisrael, and they will be my Am. Okay. So there's an anger of Hashem falling on the Rishon. It's a storm, and Hashem has His plan, which you don't understand, but Hashem has Mezimas Libai. Eventually, you're going to understand it, and what's going to be the result of all of it? Eyel Elokim l'chol mishpachos Yisrael v'hema yiyu li la'am. Okay. Now, I'll tell you what this means. One more pasuk, and then you'll understand what this all means. We don't have to look it up. I'll tell you what it means. Who are all of the Mishpachos Yisrael? All the Mishpachos Yisrael. In Yirmiyah Seif Perek Lamed Gimel, he talks about Beis Yehuda and Beis Yisrael. Those are the two Mishpachos that Hashem was with Mayas. Hashem is saying, no, I'm going to take them back. So there's Yehuda and Yisrael. Those are the two families. And Hashem is saying, eventually I'm going to bring them back. Okay, so now going back to Yirmiyah Perek Lamed. It says, eventually Hashem is going to be Le'lekim L'chol Mishpachos Yisrael. So I submit L'chol Mishpachos Yisrael means Yehuda and Yisrael. Those are the two families. What does it mean by Yisahiyinu Hashem Eilel Elokim L'chol Mishpachos Yisrael? What does that mean? Eilel Elokim L'chol Mishpachos Yisrael. Says the Gemara in Kedushin, K'shakadosh Baruch Hu Mashra Shechinasai, Einu Mashra El HaMishpachos Miyuchas Hashem Yisrael, Shenem L'chol Mishpachos Yisrael. So the pasuk is talking about Hashras HaShechina. We didn't say anything in this pasuk about Hashras HaShechina because we see all these psukim about Mihu Zeh and Cyrus Hashem are repeated. One is in the end of Perek Lamed, and one is in Perek Chav Gimel where it talks about Nevuah. Nevuah. So in Perek Chav Gimel saying you don't have Nevuah. Instead of bringing down the Geshem and the Matter, the good word of Hashem, you're bringing down a storm. But then what does it say in Perek Chav Gimel? Hashem has an agenda with his storm. He's angry, but eventually you're going to understand it. And what does it say in Perek Lamed? What are you eventually going to understand? And eventually, Anochi Eyel Elokim L'chol Mishpachos Yisrael. So it means eventually you'll have Nevuah. Eventually you'll have Nevuah. So right now you don't have Nevuah. Right now you bring down the anger of Hashem and it's a storm and it doesn't make sense. So l'chayr, what do you think? What does everyone think when a Navi, a false Navi, brings down the anger of Hashem? So he thinks we messed up and something's very bad. Says Yirmiyah Perek Chav Gimel that no, and like it says in Perek Lamed, Hashem's machshavos are also the type. That means even in a state where you're not communicating with Hashem or you're communicating incorrectly with Hashem, that just means you don't have the Devar Hashem. But you still machshavas Hashem. Everything happens is machshavas Hashem. It's just you can't explain it. And those are also the taiva. And the anger of Hashem, which appears as a storm, a destructive davar, the anger of Hashem also has a purpose. Ba'achris hayomim, you're going to understand what that purpose was, what's going to happen ba'achris hayomim. Then you're going to have this nevuah, this dvar Hashem that you lost or that you corrupted with your misunderstanding. Okay? And then Hashem is going to be a God, l'chol mishpachos Yisrael, which is Yehuda and Yisrael. Okay, so now what it means is like this. It means very pashut. Yirmiyah has this thing against Yosef. Yosef, you're a dreamer, you should be a prophet. Micha has a thing against the brothers. By the way you treated Yosef, you lost your prophecy. So what's the solution? So now we have Af Hashem, Gullus. They go down to Mitzrayim. Yosef willingly, because Yosef embraces dreams and not nevuah. And the brothers end up going there because they lost their nevuah, they lost their geula. Okay? So where's the geula? So how does it, right? Everyone has problems. The answer is that there's l'chol mishpachos Yisrael. When the brothers and Yosef are reunited,
They hug it out.
what?
They hug it out.
They hug it out. They hug it out. Okay, let me show you this. So basically that's the solution. The geula is going to come l'chol mishpachos Yisrael. Each of them on their own. When the story starts and there's a period and there's some sort of tension between them, that's when things don't work. And it has to go through all this torturous pass, and neither of them on their own can make it. Neither of them on their own can make it. They need each other. And only when they get back together is the Ruach Hashem going to return. Okay? Yeah. And this, yeah. And this is Mefurish in the end of Yirmiyah Perek Chavtes. Yirmiyah Perek Chavtes. We'll start in well, we saw this so many times, so I'm not going to start again. I'll tell you the pasuk that we need. Yirmiyah Perek Chavtes pasuk Chav Beis at the end of the parak. It says the message to Yaakov. Yaakov is not going to be embarrassed when he sees his children together. Then, so when the children of Yaakov are reunited, that's when Yaakov is not embarrassed anymore. Then, this is the last pasuk in Perek Chavtes. Then those who are lost, the ruach is lost, they're going to have bina. The people whose ruach got lost are going to have bina when? When Klal Yisrael is reunited. In the next parak, the Banim Sarim who did something without asking Hashem. The beginning of parak Lamed and Yeshaya, they go down to Mitzrayim without asking Hashem. These are the Shvatim and Yosef. Everyone went down to Mitzrayim without asking Hashem. Yosef went down to Mitzrayim because he embraced Hester Panim, dreams. Shvatim went down to Mitzrayim after they lost Nebuah. So they're Banim Sarim. And okay, we don't have to go with Mamish with the again and again, we've spoken about this so much. But the point of the Nenu is, the end of Perek Chavtes says, okay, when are the Toy Ruach going to know Bina? When is Yaakov going to be happy, not going to be embarrassed? As we spoke in when Klai Yisrael is back together, that's when Shabbat Yerushalayim is Hashem, that's when Magid Dvar Yaakov. So this question, are we going to have a Shalech and Masa Eretz, Amiris Devorah, or are we going to have Nidfnei Karos and Miyamoid? Depends. If Nidchei Yisrael Lechanis, this is basically, now I'm using the language of Mizum Kofan Zayin. If Nidchei Yisrael Lechanis in Beichu Banaich Bekirbeich, when everyone is Hirosev, Masi Yoda Bekirbeich, when everyone is together, then truly Hashem Bekirbeinu, right? Micha said, hello Hashem Bekirbeinu, no even going to happen. What are you talking about? When is Hashem Bekirbeinu? When is Beich Banaich Bekirbeich, Berosev Masi Yoda Bekirbeich? That's when Magid Dvar Yaakov. But if anyone tries to hear the cold of Hashem, then there's going to be a storm, and then there's going to be Af Hashem. So it says the Navi, okay, but Af Hashem also has a method that eventually it works out. Because no such thing as something happening that's not Hashem's machshava. There's things that happen that's not Hashem's davar. So how does something happen when it's Hashem's machshava, not his davar? Then the mashal for the davar is a storm and cold, and you really can't bear it, and maybe you'd be better off going inside and stop trying to communicate with Hashem. It's sort of what Yirmiyah is saying, maybe. That's an interesting question, meaning Yosef maybe shouldn't have tried to communicate with Hashem. Right? That's what we're saying. What if Yosef wouldn't have said, I can speak the word of Hashem? So probably the time would have been better off. The Maisa, right? But the fact is Yosef does try to communicate with the Hashem, meaning we go outside, in the language of the mashal, he faces the storm. Because everyone wants to face Hashem some way, a little bit, I don't know. Better than just saying, I don't know anything. I don't know. Face it. Maisi had his dreams. Kacha, what are you going to do? He's a dreamer. You always have to go figure out, what he's supposed to do.
We also said, right, the Judaism is an experiment in seeing the world through God's eyes.
Right.
So Yosef was trying to see the world through God's eyes. He just wasn't.
Right. No, but this is a big.
He wasn't a very good Jew.
No. It's a very important question. It's a very, very important question. Is a person supposed to try, or is a person supposed to say, no, I'm not going to do it right, and therefore I shouldn't risk bringing down the storm? No, this is a very important question, right? Because because Yosef comes to Paro and says, look, I know you're a Mitzri and things are stacked against you, but I'm going to give you Chatzi Judaism. So that was the worst thing for Paro, right? Yeah. Either you tell him, look, I don't know, God hates Egyptians, you see he hates you, he's going to get rough, and better do tshuva or whatever, and Paro would have chopped up Yosef's head, but Paro would have made it done tshuva, I don't know, or whatever would have happened. But by Yosef giving him a little bit could be the worst thing.
Right, for him.
For Paro. It's interesting. Okay, fine. So again, we have the question: is Yosef doing the right thing or not? Right? What would have been for Yosef? Right? That's what we spoke about. The Yosef's path to being redeemed was by bringing a good message to Paro. Right? If Yosef would have told Paro, "I can't interpret your dreams," so sure, the end of Yosef. It might be whatever. Mitzrayim may be saved, but nothing would happen to Yosef.
Right.
Yeah. Not that he would have get killed, but it wouldn't have been. Yosef's gula was based on the fact that he rose to power through this, obviously. Okay. Akapanim, so there we have, just remember that pasuk in Paraklam, right? Mi arav liba legeshes elai, not everyone could approach Hashem. Not everyone could approach Hashem. So rather, if not everyone could approach Hashem, so what happens? Hashem has machshavos, whereby he arranges things that eventually everyone gets united, and then Hashem brings them to him, right? That pasuk in the Lamed. The time's going to come that Hashem is going to bring him close, because when it went sour was when people tried to approach Hashem before the machshavas Hashem had to play out, and to prepare them for it, however that works. I don't even know. Okay. So again, you remember what it says in the end of Perek Tes in Yirmiyah, in Yeshaya, I'm sorry, Yodu Soyei Ruach Bina. The people who are Toyei Ruach, they'll have Bina. Those who went down to the time without speaking to Hashem, without hearing from Hashem, they're going to get Bina when all the children of Yaakov are united, right? So now I want to show you in Perek Yud Tes, which we mentioned earlier. Perek Yud Tes is about the downfall of Mitzrayim. And what is the downfall of Mitzrayim in Perek Yud Tes? They don't know the Atzas Hashem. The Chachmei Mitzrayim, it says in Pasuk Yud there, don't know the Atzas Hashem. And there the Pasuk begins, the Parak begins, Parak Yud begins, Pasuk Gimel, V'novka Ruach Mitzrayim B'kirboi. The Ruach of Mitzrayim is going to be Novka, I don't know what that word means. Okay, the Ruach of Mitzrayim is going to do something, is going to fail. V'atzosei Avaleya. The Eitz of Mitzrayim is going to be, Bola is not going to succeed. Okay? And there it says again, also about the Ruach of Mitzrayim, take a look at Pasuk Yud Daled in Parak Yud of Yishaya. Hashem Masach B'kirbo Ruach Ivim V'hisu Es Mitzrayim. So there's going to be a Ruach of Ivim, which comes from like Noah, like wandering. V'hisu Es Mitzrayim B'chol Maseu Ki Tois Shikar B'kioi. So there's going to be a Ruach Ivim that's going to lead Mitzrayim straight. Yosef was Toya Basodeh, and he brings this Ruach to Mitzrayim that ends up being Mas'eh Mitzrayim. And the Toyei Ruach, who are believed to make Mitzrayim being Mas'eh, are only going to know Bina when Yosef is united with his brothers. And if you remember Micha Perek Gimel, it talks about the Nevi'im Hamas'im Es Ami. So the Nevi'im are Lidim Toyeh, so too Yosef was a Ruach of Mitzrayim, but he was a Ruach Ivim. And he was Mas'eh Mitzrayim, he led them astray by following this Ruach, the supposed Ruach of Elikim, which was a Chatzi Ruach Elikim, but it ended up being a Ruach Kodim, and ended up being destructive to Mitzrayim. Okay, yeah, I think we'll leave it at that. So just to summarize, so basically, what we added tonight was we saw, just to put it all together, we saw that this parallels Micha Perek Gimel, where it says that people say no evil will happen to them, and the Shvatim said Akim Baldin Hatzara Zayis. Similarly, Yirmiyah Perek Gimel also says that the people of Shuyas Libam say no evil will happen to us, and they shouldn't say that. And of course, the Yirmiyah Perek Gimel corresponds to Yosef and the brothers. And there the message is that the one who can't face the word of Hashem, can't be Omed B'Sei Hashem, is going to bring down a storm, and it's going to fall on the heads of the Rishonim in this parah, who's the Mena'atzai, that don't deserve a message of Shalom. And Taka Yosef was that Ruach, the stormy Ruach, the Ruach Kodim, that ended up being the destruction of Mitzrayim, and the Ruach Ivim that was massing them. And we have these two Prakim in the Nevi'im. Micha Perek Gimel is Keneged Achim, and Yirmiyah Perek Gimel is Keneged Yosef. And they all have similar problems. So what's the solution? So this is what it says also further in Yirmiyah Perek Gimel, that the anger of Hashem, when things are failing, which is the storm of Hashem, the fact that the nasty weather, that stands for the idea that sometimes Hashem communicates with us. We pick up messages from Hashem that end up being detrimental for us. That's called Hashem's anger. That is also called Machshavos Hashem, when Hashem is not communicating with us. And that also has an Achris Toiva, which is what happened here, like Yosef said, there's a good Achris. And what is the good Acharis? Says Yirmiyah, I think it was Perek Lamed, that what is the good Acharis? That Hashem is going to be the God, L'chol Mishpachos Yisrael, which the Gemara Kedusha says he's going to be Nevuah. Elohim L'Elikim, L'chol Mishpachos Yisrael, Mishpachos Yisrael get Nevuah. Only Mishpachos Michosas, not Mishpachos Shein Michosas. L'chol Mishpachos Yisrael, Ein Seif Perek Lamed Gimel Yirmiyah means Yosef, Yisrael and Yehuda. This whole period between the Beis Yosef and Beis Yehuda and Yisrael and Yehuda. That's the root of the problem that Klal Yisrael goes to Galus, let's say, basically, what it says over there. And they're going to bring, Hashem is going to bring them all back. The Shafti is Beis Yisrael, Beis Yehuda. Yirmiyah keeps on saying that Beis Yisrael is going to come back, by the way. The Ten Shvatim, the Gemara in Erechim says Yirmiyah brought them back. Yirmiyah is saying everyone's going to come back, and it's going to be reunited. And when they're reunited, that's when Yodu Say Ruach Bina. So this lack of the Ruach Hashem, Yosef and the brothers, individually, leads to some state, which is called the state of the Af Hashem and the Machshavos Hashem, a state of a storm, but eventually it's going to bring to it'll be united, and then the Dvar Hashem is going to come back. Okay, next week, unless I find another pasuk somewhere, we'll go back to it.